皆さんこんにちは、ヒゲさんです。今回は Mrs.GREEN APPLE のビデオを撮りたいです。いつも Mrs.GREEN APPLE のリアクションするけど、今回はちょっと違うトピック話したいと思います。最近新しい曲出たコロンブスのタイトルとも、でものビデオたくさん人送った。結局、ヒゲさんもチェックしました。だから、今回僕の意見話したいと思います。最初は、とっても楽しい曲と思った。とても元気。なんか、パーティーな感じと思った。まあ、ビデオみんな、なんかパーティーしました。でも、もう一回見た。でも今回、ビデオのことをちゃんと集中しました。And after looking at the video and seeing exactly what was going on, I mean, I can see why people are upset. You know, the band members are dressed up as historical, I guess we'll call them historical figures, people that, they made their mark in history, and they're kind of going along with people dressed as apes and such. But at first, my thought was, well, depending on your beliefs, if you believe in evolution or not, as you know, humans came from apes and that kind of deal. It's up to you to believe what you want. But I guess because they were dressed up as those people and they were teaching apes, basically it was saying that the people that were around them at that particular time were apes. Well, not really apes, but they kind of had an ape mindset. They had no idea what to do. So I can see why people would feel insulted by that kind of deal, especially when the people that they portrayed aren't really seen as, the best people in the world. Because as you know, with Columbus, and Napoleon, and I forgot the other person in the video, but they didn't really, you know, do a lot of good things. So having the band members dressed up as those people kind of could have come off at a bad thing. After watching the video, I personally I thought, okay, I can see why people are angry, and then I decided to go ahead and check up the apology that they posted, and I will have the apology like somewhere like right here. Unfortunately, the apology is only in Japanese, so I had to go ahead and use Google Translate to kind of read up on what they mentioned. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about the reactions of the apology later, but for now, let's take a look at what the band members said. 今からヒゲさん日本語頑張ります。ルージーネンが登場することに関しては差別的な表現に見えてしまう恐れがあるという懸念を当初から感じておりましたが、ルージーネンを人に見立てたなどの意図は全くなく、ただただ年代の異なる生命がホームパーティーをするというイメージをしておりました。しかしながら意図とは異なる伝わり方もするかもしれないと思い、スタッフの確認し事前に特殊メイクのニャンス、衣装演じ方のフォロー、監修をしていたつもりで羽織りましたが、そもそもの大きな題材として不快な思いをされた方に深くお詫び申し上げます。頑張りました。But as you can see from the apology, even the band now realizes that they made a mistake, that they can see now that using the apes was kind of discriminatory, and they had a different image when making this video. And I can see why they would think that. A lot of people, when they do things, especially when they post it online, sometimes people perceive things a different way. So, of course, they probably didn't think this was going to be discriminatory. They were thinking, let's go ahead and just have a party video and dress up as costumes. I think I can see why what they were trying to do, but in the end, it didn't come out the way they envisioned it. And even when they checked with staff and everything, and they were filming the video, nobody thought that this would, have a negative outcome. And I think that's, mostly because maybe whenever they were gathered in the room and they were talking about the concept of the video and what they were wanting to do, they were getting Mrs. Green Apple's ideas or whoever comes up with their ideas. I don't exactly know who thinks of those ideas, but maybe they were telling them in a way that everybody else thought, なるほど、そうします. And so that's why they decided to go ahead and make this video and release it. But as you guys know, Mrs. Green Apple is a Japanese band, and I'm not really too familiar with how history is taught here in Japan, especially those particular figures. I don't know if they go ahead and teach people here what they did in history, the good and the bad. Because, I mean, even then in schools in America, they kind of just teach them about the good stuff that they did, not really so much the bad stuff. Some people, the bad stuff they teach if they can't hide. But the thing that kind of surprised me is that in this apology, they mentioned only the apes part. They didn't really talk about the people that they were dressed up as, because a lot of people, especially Western people, have some problems with these particular people. So I was kind of surprised that they didn't address that part. But it goes back to the history thing that I talked about earlier. Maybe just those people are not taught enough or not taught at all about the stuff that they did here in Japan. But the reaction to this, I did also see that there was a post where they performed this song on TV, and at the end of the song, everybody was clapping and such. And I saw some Japanese posts that people mentioned that they're surprised that the people there are clapping to this song when they know that they had this whole big, backlash, but yet the people there are still clapping for it. And then, they were just talking about how, these particular events are fake, and, the people that are there, they're just there because, they have to do clapping and stuff. And I think that's kind of like the, not really tatemae, but it's a kind of, I think here in Japan, they have a word for it, when you have to pretend to like something because, you're out in public. But I could be wrong. I'm not too entirely sure. I know a lot of people from the Japanese side were pretty upset. And then, of course, there were some people that, they were just okay with it. They were just like, oh, like just, made a mistake and it's okay. And after the apology. But from the foreigner's perspective, because, Mrs. Green Apple does have a foreigner fan base. If you guys don't know, a lot of foreigners actually listen to Japanese music. And the people that were talking about this video were, I don't want to say more critical, but they were kind of, a little bit more like, why did they go ahead and do this? Like, what's wrong with them? Like, is the team that thought this, like, what were they thinking? That kind of stuff. And usually that's how foreigners react. They kind of have a little bit more of how do I say, like strong kind of opinion about this kind of stuff. But I'm actually very surprised though that this kind of happened. みんなもう知ってるけど、ヒゲさんはとっても Mrs. Green Apple のファンです。だから僕のチャンネルでいっぱい Mrs. Green Apple のリアクションあります。だからこのニュースを見るとき、ちょっとびっくりした。But at the end of the day, Mrs. Green Apple, they're humans. They make mistakes. They're just like people like us. We make mistakes all the time. And I don't think people should be, angry at them. And I haven't really seen people kind of angry at them anymore about this, so that's a really good thing. You know, hopefully for the next video they release, it'll be just fine, and I'm sure it's gonna be fine. でも皆さんどうだった？コメントでしてください。お疲れ様です。またね。